My girlfriend posted, "When your BF works in sanitation, mocking my job. I'm a surgeon. I work in sanitizing operating rooms between surgeries." I commented, "I sanitize also surgeons like me can save lives." Then I added my medical degree and hospital badge. When her comment section exploded, "I, 32 male, am a trauma surgeon working at a major level 1 trauma center in a busy metropolitan city. My job is intense, high stakes, and requires a level of absolute perfection that most people do not understand. Because of the nature of my work, I have a very specific professional quirk. During my surgical residency, my program director drilled infection control into my head so aggressively that I developed a strict, non-negotiable routine. I handle the final sterile preparation and chemical sanitization of my operating room before every single major procedure. I do not delegate this to the surgical techs or the custodial staff. I do it myself. It is the only way I can guarantee my sterile field is flawless before I open a patient up. I met girlfriend about 8 months ago at a local coffee shop near my hospital. We hit it off, and on our second date, she naturally asked what I did for a living. I had just come off a grueling 36-hour shift. I was physically exhausted and mentally drained. I honestly just did not want the standard reaction people give when they hear you are a doctor. I did not want the barrage of weird medical questions, and I definitely did not want the sudden shift in how people treat you when they start doing the math on your salary bracket. I wanted to keep things simple and grounded. So I told her the truth, just a very specific version of it. I said, "I work in sanitation at the hospital." She immediately assumed I was a janitor. I saw the realization wash over her face, but to her credit at the time, she did not run away. I did not correct her. I actually liked the idea that she was interested in me as a person, completely regardless of my income or social status. As the months went by, our relationship progressed, and she eventually moved into my house. I honestly assumed she had figured out what I actually did by that point. I leave heavy medical journals on the kitchen island. My hospital badge, which clearly states my name and title, sits on my dresser. I drive a very high-end car, which she happily drove whenever she wanted to go shopping or meet her friends. I paid the mortgage, the utilities, the groceries, and every time we went out. I figured she knew, but we just never had a formal sit-down conversation about it. The trouble started on a Friday night at a dinner with a group of her friends. We were sitting at a crowded, upscale restaurant, and the topic of careers and 5-year plans came up. Her friends were all climbing corporate ladders or trying to be social media influencers. One of her friends looked across the table and asked me what my day-to-day actually looked like at the hospital. Before I could even open my mouth to answer, girlfriend rolled her eyes, let out a loud, dramatic sigh, and completely spoke over me. "He mops floors and empties bedpans," she said, waving her hand dismissively like I was a pesky fly. "It is honest work, I guess, but somebody has to clean up after the actual important people." The entire table went dead silent. You could hear the silverware clinking on plates 3 tables over. I looked at her, entirely stunned by the sheer disrespect. I tried to clarify the situation calmly. "That is not exactly what I do. I prep the oils for." "Stop pretending to be important," she snapped, cutting me off again in front of everyone. "There's absolutely no shame in being the help. Just own it and stop embarrassing me." I did not say another word for the rest of the dinner. I sat there, ate my food, paid the entire table's check because none of her friends reached for their wallets, drove her home in complete silence, and went to sleep in the guest room. The next morning, I was at the hospital scrubbing in for a highly complex, multi-hour bowel resection. A scrub nurse I have worked with for years walked up to me, looking extremely uncomfortable, holding out her phone. "You really need to see this," she said. It was a video on girlfriend's social media page. She had a decent following online, mostly posting lifestyle, makeup, and relationship content. The video was a skit. She was acting out a dramatically embarrassed sigh, looking directly into the camera. The text overlay on the video read, "When your BF works in sanitation and tries to give medical advice to my successful friends at dinner. #embarrassing #dating down #." I stood there and watched it twice. She had over 500,000 views already. The comments were an absolute nightmare. Thousands of people were ruthlessly mocking me, calling me a loser, telling her she was way out of my league, and advising her to dump the dead weight immediately. She was actively replying to comments, agreeing with them and soaking up the sympathy. I handed the phone back to the nurse. I pulled my own phone out of my scrubs. I navigated to her profile and found the post. I typed out a single comment. I sanitize operating rooms so trauma surgeons like me can save lives. I hit reply. Then I went to my own profile. I took a photo directly from my camera roll and uploaded it, making sure to tag her account. It was a clear, high-resolution picture of my framed medical degree from Johns Hopkins University resting right next to my hospital ID badge. The badge clearly read, Chief of Trauma Surgery. I put my phone in my locker, locked it, and walked into the operating room for the next 6 hours. When I finally scrubbed out and checked my phone, it was practically melting from the sheer volume of notifications. The internet had found my comment. They had clicked on my profile. They had seen the photo. Her comments section had completely exploded in a way I had not anticipated. The algorithm had pinned my reply to the absolute top of her video. People were relentlessly tearing her apart. The entire narrative shifted in a matter of minutes. She was no longer the relatable influencer dealing with a loser boyfriend. The internet had rightfully crowned her as an arrogant, self-absorbed gold digger who was too clueless to realize she was being entirely supported by a surgeon. Her followers were dropping by the thousands. I drove home feeling completely emotionally detached from the relationship. Girlfriend was waiting for me in the living room. She was not crying. She was not apologetic. She was absolutely furious. Her face was red, and she was pacing the floor. "Take it down right now," she demanded the second I walked through the front door. "No, you humiliated me intentionally," she yelled, stepping into my space and pointing a finger at my chest. "My sponsors are messaging me. People are dragging my name through the mud. You need to delete your comment right now and post a video apologizing to me. Tell them you lied. Tell them you actually are a janitor and you were just seeking attention." I just stared at her, trying to comprehend the sheer delusion. "You want me to publicly lie about my medical license and my career so you can save face on the internet after you insulted me?" "You owe me," she screamed. "You lied to me for 8 months. You made me look like an idiot. I told you I worked in sanitation. You never asked a single follow-up question. You lived in a house fully paid for by a surgeon's salary. You drove a luxury car bought by a surgeon. You just never cared to actually look at the man you were living with. This is entirely your own fault." I walked right past her into the kitchen. I opened my briefcase and pulled out a standard legal document I had printed at the hospital administration office. "We are officially done," I said, handing her the paper. "This is a formal 30-day notice to quit. You have established legal residency here by receiving your mail at this address. I am legally required to give you 30 days to vacate. Be out of my house by the 31st of the month." She ripped the paper in half and threw the pieces on the hardwood floor. "I am not going anywhere. This is my house, too. I have been maintaining it, and I have rights." An hour later, my phone rang. The caller ID showed it was Mother. I answered it against my better judgment. "You have severely damaged my daughter's mental health and completely ruined her online career," Mother said. Her tone was completely flat, cold, and entirely entitled. "She is losing lucrative brand deals because of your little, petty stunt. You are going to fix this immediately. You will buy her a new car as compensation for the income she is currently losing, and you will let her stay in the house until she decides she is financially ready to leave. If you do not agree to this right now, we will make your life a living hell. We will ruin you." "Do not ever call this number again," I said, and I hung up the phone. I really thought that would be the end of it. I assumed they were just blowing off steam because they were embarrassed and losing the argument. I severely underestimated how absolutely dirty entitled people are willing to play when they lose control of a narrative and realize they cannot manipulate their way out of a situation. 3 days later, I was paged and called into the hospital administration office. The head of human resources and the chief medical officer were sitting at a long conference table, looking incredibly grim. Girlfriend had filed a massive, formal grievance with the hospital. She claimed I was verbally abusive at home, physically intimidating, and that I was misusing hospital property, specifically citing my badge, to harass and silence women online. But she did not stop there. She also submitted a formal, multi-page complaint to the state medical board, alleging gross unprofessional conduct and claiming I was severe danger to my patients due to unmanaged anger issues and substance abuse. We have no choice but to place you on paid administrative leave effective immediately, the CMO said, looking apologetic but firm. It is standard protocol when a complaint of this magnitude is filed. We have to investigate thoroughly. I was immediately pulled from the surgical rotation. Patients I had been scheduled to operate on had to be reassigned. I calmly unlocked my phone and handed it to the head of HR. I showed them the original video she posted mocking me. I showed them my single, factual comment. I showed them the text messages I had received from her and the voicemails from Mother demanding a car and an apology video in exchange for her silence. HR cleared me internally within 48 hours. They saw the extortion for exactly what it was. However, the state medical board is a massive government bureaucracy. Their investigation remained fully open, and my license was under threat. I had to immediately hire a top-tier defense attorney specializing in medical license retention. It cost me a $15,000 retainer just to get the initial paperwork started and secure representation. While I was dealing with the lawyers, girlfriend escalated her campaign. I came home from a long meeting with my attorney to find my key would not turn in the front door. She had called a locksmith while I was gone. She claimed she had lost her keys and showed the locksmith a piece of mail with her name and my address on it to prove residency, tricking him into changing all the exterior locks. I did not bang on the door. I did not yell through the windows. I just sat in my car and called the local police non-emergency line. When the officers arrived, girlfriend opened the door, putting on the performance of a lifetime. She was sobbing uncontrollably, shaking, and told the officers I was highly abusive and she was terrified for her physical safety. She demanded they remove me from my own property immediately. The police officers asked for my ID. They looked at the deed to the house, which I quickly pulled up on my phone's county property tax portal. You cannot lock the legal property owner out of his own house without a signed court order, the lead officer explained, looking extremely unamused by her tears. You either give him the new keys right now, or we will stand here while he calls his own locksmith to drill these locks out. She handed over the keys, glaring at me with pure hatred. But she was not done. The very next morning, she went down to the county courthouse and tried to file an emergency ex parte restraining order against me, hoping a judge would sign it and force me out of the house legally. I found out because my lawyer monitors the court dockets. I showed up at the hearing with my attorney. I presented the Ring camera footage of me calmly handing her the eviction notice while she screamed in my face. I presented the recorded phone call and extortion text from Mother. The judge took one look at the evidence, denied her restraining order immediately, and gave her a stern warning about filing frivolous petitions and wasting the court's time. Having failed at every legal maneuver, girlfriend returned to my house and enacted a scorched earth policy. She invited Mother to move into the guest bedroom with her to protect her from me. They essentially became hostile squatters. They ate all the expensive groceries I bought. They intentionally left sticky trash and empty takeout containers in the hallways. They played loud, thumping bass music at 3 a.m. to disrupt my sleep before my shifts. They would follow me from room to room, holding their phones up, recording me, trying to provoke a reaction so they could finally get that police report they desperately wanted. I gave them absolutely nothing. I treated them like they were completely invisible. I bought a mini-fridge for my master bedroom, put a heavy-duty deadbolt on my bedroom door, and documented every single lease violation, every noise ordinance breach, and every piece of property damage. They genuinely thought they were winning. They thought their psychological warfare was breaking me down. They did not realize I was a surgeon. I deal with high-stress, chaotic environments for a living. I was just patiently running out the clock. Day 31 arrived. The notice period was officially over. I did not warn them. I did not knock on the guest room door to remind them. I drove straight to the county courthouse right when the doors opened and formally filed an unlawful detainer lawsuit to begin the legal eviction process. In my state, the laws are very clear. Once a court summons for an eviction is served by a licensed process server, the tenant has exactly 5 business days to file a formal, written legal response with the court clerk. If they do not file an answer, they forfeit their right to a hearing. Girlfriend simply did not take it seriously. Her entitlement convinced her she was untouchable. When the process server handed her the papers, she literally laughed in his face. She thought they were just more empty threats. I actually found the summons later. She was using the legal documents as a coaster for her iced coffee on my living room table. Because he completely failed to respond within the statutory 5-day window, my lawyer marched back into court and filed for default judgment. We won automatically. The judge reviewed the file, saw no response, and immediately signed the writ of possession. While the eviction machinery was grinding its gears, my lawyer and I were incredibly busy building a second, much more devastating lawsuit in civil court. We filed for tortious interference with prospective economic advantage, gross defamation, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. We had rock-solid, documented proof that her false, malicious reports to my hospital and the state medical board cost me a full week of high-level surgical billing. We had the receipts for my massive legal retainer. We calculated every single dime she cost me. We sued her for exactly $85,000 in damages. About a week after the default judgment, I was standing in my kitchen drinking my morning coffee. Mother and girlfriend were sitting on my expensive couch, watching my television, completely ignoring my presence as usual. There was a series of very loud, heavy, authoritative knocks on the front door. I walked over and opened it. 3 armed county sheriff's deputies were standing on my front porch, wearing tactical vests. "We are here to officially execute a writ of possession," the lead deputy announced, his voice carrying through the whole house. Girlfriend froze. The coffee cup stopped halfway to her mouth. Mother immediately jumped up, her face turning purple, yelling that they had tenant rights and that this was an illegal eviction. "You had rights 30 days ago," the deputy said, stepping into the foyer and resting his hand near his duty belt. "Now you have exactly 10 minutes to grab your essential medications and your clothing and permanently vacate these premises. If you are not out the door in 10 minutes, you will both be placed in handcuffs and arrested for criminal trespassing." The absolute reality of the situation finally hit girlfriend. The smug entitlement vanished entirely, replaced by sheer, unadulterated panic. She scrambled around the guest room frantically, shoving expensive clothes and makeup palettes into black plastic trash bags. Mother was screaming at the top of her lungs at the deputies, demanding their badge numbers, threatening to sue the entire county, and demanding to speak to the chief of police. The deputies completely ignored her tantrums, standing firmly in the hallway, watching their watches. Exactly 10 minutes later, they were being physically escorted out the front door in their pajamas, crying hysterically, clutching garbage bags full of whatever they could grab in a panic. As they stepped off the porch and onto the walkway, my private process server, who had been waiting patiently in a parked car across the street, stepped right up to them. "Excuse me," the server said cheerfully, handing a very thick, heavy manila envelope directly into girlfriend's hands. "You have been served." She stopped crying for a second to look down at the documents. She read the cover page detailing the $85,000 civil lawsuit. She looked up at me standing in the doorway. All the color drained from her face. "You are destroying my entire life," she cried out, her voice cracking. "I have absolutely no sponsors left. I have no money coming in. I have nowhere to go. You cannot do this to me." "I sanitize my environment," I replied calmly. "You are just part of the process." The deputies ordered them to leave the property immediately. I watched them load their garbage bags into a friend's car who had to come pick them up. I had a locksmith there 20 minutes later, and I changed every single lock on the house myself that afternoon. The state medical board completed their investigation and cleared my license entirely a month later, citing her claims as entirely baseless and retaliatory. The civil suit is still slowly making its way through the court system, but her lawyer has already tried to settle twice because they know they are going to lose. My lawyer is currently in the process of securing a legal lien against any future income she might make online, meaning a portion of anything she earns will go straight to paying my legal fees. She has not posted a single video or photo on social media since the day the sheriffs locked her out of my house. Sometimes, people confuse a calm demeanor and silence for weakness.